So this is one of the completely parameterized mappings in IICS, right? When I say completely parameterized, what do I mean? So if I go to source, if I go to the source tab, so here, right, instead of using any predefined connections, right, I have created a parameter. How do I create a parameter? So this is the button, new parameter, and if I click this button, then it will allow me to create a parameter for my connection. Okay, now to create parameters in IICS mapping, there are a couple of ways. Either I can go to this parameter panel over here and then create the parameters as per my requirement. I can use those parameters in the source transformation for connection object, or I can use those in expression transformation. I can use them for lookup, filter, right? Anywhere, right? So either I can create these parameters by going to the parameter panel one, or I can create those parameters in the individual transformations. Okay, and as per the best practice, right, we need to create those parameters in the transformation itself, right? Because now in this particular mapping, right, where you have source, filter, expression, target, you may have few more transformations. Here we have taken some sample ones, right? We can have like lookups, router, anything, right? So to analyze, right, how many parameters we require and defining them upfront, right? Rather than that, it is always better practice to go to that transformation and decide if you need a parameter. If yes, then you define there itself, right? Eventually, whatever parameters you define in the individual transformations, those will get listed under your parameter, right? So you create parameters from here, or you create them in the transformation. It doesn't make any difference. Okay, so if I click on this plus sign, then I can select the parameter type and I can create that parameter, right? But then I'll always prefer to go to the transformation and create the parameters. So if I go to the source, right, here I do have option to create a new parameter for my connection. So if I click that, right, and one benefit of creating these parameters from the respective transformations is, no, I don't have to select the type. So wherever I'm going to create that parameter, whatever is the applicable type, that will be pre-selected. As in here I'm trying to create a parameter for my source connection, that is why the type is pre-selected. I'm not able to change it, right? The connection parameter, I can name this parameter as src underscore conn underscore param, means source connection parameter. Label is optional. You provide same or you don't provide, doesn't make any difference. You can also provide the description why this parameter is created, right? And then connection type. This is so except the parameter name, everything is optional. Type is anyway selected, but label, description, connection type, default, everything is optional. Okay, so let's see the parameter which we have created. So src conn parameter, right? How do I see the details about this parameter? I can go to parameter panel, click this, and this will open. Okay, so we have named this parameter. The connection is, the type is connection type I have selected as oracle for now. This you can select or you can even skip doing that, right? But I have selected oracle, and then I have also mentioned allow parameter to be overridden at the runtime, right? What does that mean? Though I'm selecting my connection type as oracle, and I may also provide, I do have a connection created as db connection or orcl connection, right? I can provide the default value, but that default value can be changed at the runtime. It can be overridden at the runtime. Okay, so this defaulting you can provide, but it is optional. So this is how I have created my source connection parameter. Similarly, I have created one more. So after creating a parameter for my source connection, my source type could be single object and parameter. So if I want to parameterize my source object as well, it can be a file or a table, right? Then I'll select the parameter option, and then again here I do have another button to create a new parameter for my source object. So if I click this, it will the type will be now data object. Earlier it was a connection parameter. Now it is a data object parameter and I can name it. So I have created this source obj parameter data object, and then for now I have selected or I have defaulted the source object as customers, and I also say allow parameter to be overridden at the runtime. Okay, so though I have selected customers as my source table, but then while runtime I can select any. I can select order, employees, departments, products, anything, any table. Okay, so these are a couple of parameters we have created for connection and object. Now moving forward, I'm taking a filter transformation, and in the filter transformation, if I go to filter tab, filter condition can be simple, advanced, or completely parameterized. So I'm selecting this completely parameterized filter condition, right? Why? Because currently my source is not decided. Do I have any incoming fields in the filter transformation? Nothing. Why? Because I don't have my source defined. So that is why, can we define any simple or advanced level filter condition as of now in this particular mapping? No, right? Because for that we need to have at least one port coming in from my source transformation, which is not the case. So that is why we will go with the completely parameterized filter condition. Now let's understand these differences: simple, advanced, and completely parameterized. So simple, advanced, you already know, right? In the simple, you will select the port in the drop down, and then you will select the value operator. You will select, say for example, from the list you selected customer id, then you selected greater than, then you will provide a value 102, 105, so that value is hard coded value in the filter. Here, using the parameterization for my filter transformation, we are trying to avoid that, you know, hard coded value, and then we are trying to parameterize it, right? So in the simple filter condition also we can use a parameter. If my source was decided, and that is something you will have to try in your hands on, right, in your assignments, in your hands on, you will have to try it, because we have created a mapping in a particular way, right? Like filter transformation with completely parameterized filter condition, right? You, at your end, what you could do is like, anyways you are going to mimic this what we are demonstrating. On top of it, you can try simple and advanced both, and you can try parameters over there. Okay, so if I use simple, then I need to have something flowing in as an incoming field from my source transformation, right? If it is there, say for example, you confirm that your source is order table, customer table, right? That is not parameterized, it is fixed customer table. Now you want to get that flexibility to define the value, right? Say for example, your condition is on customer id greater than, but that value, it has to be 101 or 102 or whatever, right? That you want to be flexible about, right? In that case, you can select the simple filter condition, and then you can create another parameter, expression level parameter, and then you can assign it to that value. Means customer id greater than, this is fixed for you, but then what could be that value? 101, 102, 10,000, right? That you will decide at the runtime. So that is adding the parameterized filter condition with the simple clause. In the advanced, what we do is like we provide that whole expression, right? Customer id greater than this and that, or those things we use in the advanced. There also we can use the parameter rather than providing the hard coded value. When we say completely parameterized, right, then it is not only the value by which we are going to filter, right, but even which field we are going to have a filter condition on, right? That also we can declare at the runtime. In the simple and advanced, right, what we can do is like, our field on which we are going to have filter, and the operator is decided, only that value, right, customer id greater than is decided, but greater than 101 or 102, right, that is something we are going to parameterize. But completely parameterized means that field also we will decide at runtime which field we want to apply the filter condition on. So for first execution, it can be customer ID greater than 101. Second execution, it could be email ID not null. Third execution could be first name or last name something either of the fields needs to be populated, right? So that is what the completely parameterized filter condition is. And for that, again, I have created another parameter. If I click on new, this particular parameter working in the filter transformation will be of expression type. There is no filter parameter type, it is expression. So apart from your source, target, lookup, right, whatever transformation you try to have parameter in, those all will be mostly of expression type. Currently my source is not decided, that is why I don't have anything in the incoming fields, and that is why I have to go with the completely parameterized filter condition, right? But in real time also, or in any other mapping also, say for example your source is decided, that is a customer table, right? In the filter condition you have fields coming in, right? And then still you want to be flexible about on which field you want to define a filter condition, that can also be possible, right? And then in that case completely parameterized filter condition, you will have a flexibility of, you can define it as customer id greater than 101 for first, and that is what I just explained, right? So customer id greater than 101, this is your filter condition for your first execution. For second execution you can mention email id not null. Third iteration it is the same mapping, but because you have defined the filter condition to be completely parameterized, here you will get a choice of defining on which field or fields we are going to have the filter condition applied, what is going to be your operator, greater than, equal to, less than, right? And then the value as well. Whenever you get a chance to completely parameterize your filter condition, including the field on which you are going to have the filter condition, the operator and the value, right? Then we call it as a completely parameterized filter. If it is simple, then your field and operator is decided, only value you can parameterize. And advanced means multiple
Multiple
fields,
filters.
right?
Mm,
With the
mm,
operators are decided, only values you will be able to parameterize. That is the difference between simple, advanced, and completely parameterized filter condition with respect to parameterization. Okay, so this is how we have declared that filter transformation now with completely parameterized filter condition and FLT COND param. So in this expression, again we have defined couple of field fields. Okay, expression
mm,
created by, expression created date, and then rather than providing expression created as sys date or any hard coded date, here again we have created an expression. If this expression would have been placed between source and filter, right, then these two fields, exp created by and exp created date, right, could have been your incoming fields in the filter transformation. And then you
mm.
could have created the simple or advanced filter conditions on top of these incoming fields. You got my point? Let me show you. If this was the mapping design, okay, now if you go to filter, see you have two things coming in from your expression, nothing from your source as it is parameterized, but then you have these two fields. So now you can go to filter transformation, and then here, rather than providing completely parameterized, you can go for sim, add a condition, expression created by, equal to, here rather than using a hard coded value like I would say etl developer, this is hard coding, right? If you want to provide this value at runtime or coming from parameter file, then instead of this what we can do is click on the drop down, say new parameter, new input parameter, and then you provide that condition. I can say s underscore flt cond. You can also provide a default value which can be overridden at the runtime, or you can skip providing the default value. That is also.
Okay.
This is a simple filter condition where your value is parameterized, right?
Oh,
In our case, earlier it was like completely parameterized because we did not have anything as incoming fields. Now, this is
mm,
something I want you to try at your end, right? You need to try adding like different type of filters or expressions or lookups, right, as a parameter. Because for demonstration we can have like one, two, three use cases, right? But there could be n number of use cases in reality where you will have to apply the parameterization, right, in multiple transformations and all, right? That is how you can just try to do a lot of things at your end, come up with some different I would say use cases, and then test it thoroughly, right? I'll again cancel this because I don't want to make any changes to the mapping. So I'll just close this mapping and then they'll reopen. This is the completely parameterized filter condition. Now I move forward in the expression transformation. I have created couple of ports, exp created by exp created date, right? And then rather than providing the hard coded values for date and audit field, here if I usually it will be non parameterized, and then we provide a value, hard coded value, or we can use the built-in functions, right, like concat and all, right, these things, right? We often use that, right? But then as we want to parameterize the value, we will just toggle this and say parameterized, and then here I do have an option to create a parameter. Again, this will be of expression type. So I created a parameter created by param, and then I encapsulated this particular value which will be coming from either my parameter file or I will initialize that at the run. Similarly, I have created another port exp created date, and for that I have used another parameter exp created dt. That parameter I have again created. This is also of expression type. And then finally I do have my target. In my target, if I go to the target tab, now here if I go to incoming fields, then I will see couple of them which are coming from my expression, right? Nothing in from source as it is not decided yet, right? So in the target tab, for again my connection, I have created a tgt conn parameter for my target connection, parameter for my target object, right, similar to what I have in my source. And then one more parameter I will have to create is at the field mapping level. So field mapping also, field mapping options, manual, automatic, completely parameterized, and partially parameterized. We'll discuss these options, right? Currently, I don't have any choice but to go for completely parameterized. Why? Because my target is not decided, right? Do I have any field to which I can map the fields from incoming? No. Incoming also I do have couple of only, right, which is coming from my expression, which are coming from my expression. And here also I don't have any field which is in my target, as my target is also yet to be decided. So not always, right, not always you will have source, target, everything parameterized, right? There can be a case that your source is parameterized, target is fixed, or your target is parameterized, source is fixed, right? So that way it depends upon what kind of parameterization concept you are applying in that specific mapping, right? If your source is decided, then you will have those in the incoming fields. Or if your source is flexible and your target is, you know non parameterized, in that case you decide a target, maybe my target is customer orders, then you will have the target fields. And then if your target is decided, right, over here itself, right, you're not using any parameter for your target, in that case the field mapping options can be set to partially parameterize as well, or manual, right? Manual as in like drag the fields and all, right? Now partially parameterize means what I'll do is, maybe I do have 10 columns in my target table, from maybe 7 or 8 or 5, right? I have mapped them against the incoming fields. But then whatever are pending, right, like those 3, 4, 5, right, which I am still going to calculate at the runtime and then I'll map them. If that is the case, right, then I can go for partially parameterized. And then I want you to try that, right, at your end, right? You need to have source fixed, target also fixed, not parameterized. In between, you can use the filter, transformation, expression, router, anything, right? And have the parameters over there, right? And then while mapping the fields in the target transformation, you map some of the fields directly, and then some of the fields parameterized way, right? Like, you will create the parameter, and then the runtime you'll decide you want to, join it with anything coming from your expression or from your router or anything that you can decide. That will be the option for partially parameterized, in which some of the parameters are mapped already and rest will be mapped at the runtime. Okay, so if I go back to the parameter panel, right, I do see source, connection, source object, filter, condition, created by, created date, target connection, target object, and field mappings. These are the parameters we discussed across multiple transformations.